family. We are so happy to have you here. We are already into this lesson and we're going to be getting even deeper into it, but right now we're just trying to pick up a little bit. So please follow us. We're dealing right now with the white throne judgment. The white throne judgment, as all of you know, you've all heard, if you've been in church any time at all, that you want to make sure that your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, right? Because, oh my God, my God. You want to make sure that your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Okay, and the reason is because you've all heard, and it's true, that Jesus is going to name names. He's going to call your name and he's going to look at the book. If your name is not in the book, you're going to everlasting fire. You're not going to hell because hell is going to be thrown into eternal fire. And that's where you're going to be going. This place was meant for the devil and his angels, but that's where you're going to be going. Got good news and bad news for you. Everybody ready? Okay, let me give you the good news. The good news is if you are a born-again believer, you do not have to worry about your name being written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Why? Because the church has already left. You've already gone. So there's no need to read your name. You're already there. The bad news is if you're standing before him, there's a good chance that your name is not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. So the church is already gone. You don't have to worry about that, okay? You are with him. Then number 6, there's a new heaven and a new earth. The Lord is going to create a new heaven and a new earth. So those are the things that happen after the rapture. Once the church is gone, there are still things that go on earth. Everybody got it? Okay. Let me see if I can give you a brief history of Israel before we get into this lesson. Brief history of Israel. All of you know this man called Abram or Abraham, correct? All right. Well, Abram or Abraham was called the father of faith. Why? Because he was introduced to a God who he did not know, and he simply followed him. The Lord said, what I want you to do is I just want you to follow me. I'm going to tell you to go to a place where you don't know where it is. And Abraham went. So he was called the father of faith. Okay. Well, his faith was so impactful that his children followed after him. And then this God, who was God of Abram and who becomes Abraham, becomes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, unfortunately, even though they believed in the Lord, they still had offspring who from time to time would get in trouble and not do what they were supposed to. Now, you've all heard of this place called Egypt. Well, the children of Abraham, it was approximately 70 of them, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they wound up landing in and being held captive in Egypt. So for the first 30 years, they were there and everything was fine because of a young man that because of Joseph. However, they raised an individual who did not know Joseph, a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. So he put them all in captivity. And for 400 years, they were in captivity. Well, you all know about the Red Sea experience and how they got delivered. Here is my problem. For the next 40 years, they wandered in the wilderness. These people who they entered into Egypt as a family, but they left as a nation. It was 70 who came in, approximately 1.5 million who left. Watch this. What I have to tell you is this. During that 40 years, the Lord was faithful to an unfaithful people. Watch this, watch this. If I had to tell you the theme of what was going on for those 40 years, it would be by 2 Motown songs. Let me tell you the first one. The first one is this. This is how the Lord felt. He says, I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. But that's one. But then we had another song. During this whole 40 years, it was like this with Israel and God. It was break up to make up. That's all we do. First you love me, then you hate me. It's a game for fools. And that's what their relationship was. All during this time, the Lord sent out a sound to Motown and said, I want you to talk about my people. So now that that's taken care of, let's see if we can deal with this just a little bit. And I want all of you to understand when I said he was faithful to an unfaithful people, even though they were supposed to worship, even though they were supposed to be kind to one another, even though they were supposed to recognize him as the one true God, many times they didn't do that during this 40 years. But watch this. When I said he was faithful, the bread or the manna never stopped. And his presence was there every day in the morning and every day in the evening. The quail from time to time would show up. He did everything he was supposed to, but his folks still wouldn't act right. I could give you another song, but I'm not going to right now. No. So now we move on. So, oh, Lord. Well, since you've asked for it, there is one other song that the Lord, that they made him deal with. He didn't want to have to deal with it, but he dealt with it. And you know, every once in a while, you know, I don't know if I don't even know if I want to tell y'all this song. Well, you don't leave you hanging. Huh? Okay. Well, it went something like this. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. Y'all gonna make me act a fool up in here. And that's how the relationship was. He didn't want to do it, but many times he had to. So now let's see if we can start to get into this lesson. If you were to look in your book and you would look at Isaiah 65, verse 2 and 3, you'll find out that in Isaiah 65, verse 2 and 3, this basically was the problem that Israel had. The problem that they had was they would not act right. May I have my reader, please?
I have spread out my hands all the day long to a rebellious and stubborn people who walk in the way that is not good, following after their own thoughts and intentions.
Stop right there. They didn't walk in the way that was good. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. Now, for those of you who are parents, have you ever had a child basically say and do, well, listen, I know you my parent, but I'm going to do what I want to do. And when that happens, somebody got to leave the house. Go ahead, please.
The people who continually provoke me to my face, sacrificing to idols in gardens, and making offerings with incense on bricks instead of at the designated altar.
So basically, they had what was called the Shema. The Shema is Deuteronomy 6 and 5. That was their saying that, hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. And yet they would not serve that one God. They just wouldn't do it. They just would not do it. Anywhere from tithing to worship, they would act up. It just didn't make a difference. Now on the scene comes this man, and his name is Isaiah. Isaiah happens to be a prophet. He's one of the major prophets. So he tells them that because of your sin, something is going to happen. He says, already you have suffered all of these things. You've suffered in the wilderness. You've suffered everything else going along with that. You've even suffered being separated into a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. I've got news for you. The northern kingdom is already done. They are captive by Assyria. Guess what? Babylon, who he was preaching to. Guess what? Judah, who he was preaching to. He says, you also are going to go into captivity. They weren't in captivity, but he was prophesying and letting them know that's where they were going to go. Now, I want you to think about this. And for us, it's a little bit easier. Imagine somebody told you when you were in the coast of Africa